Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Stick Together. My name is Lena Langbeck from Library of Change. I'm a writer and I'm here today with Emily, Tracy and Sarah Cudden. We started Let's Stick Together as a way of bringing us all together during the pandemic this past year. We've all been through a lot and we wanted to explore how to connect in different ways through collage, both images and sound. Emily and Sarah, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Sarah Cudden and I'm a radio producer, and I also make podcasts and sometimes work with theatre companies with their sound. And I am going to be producing, with everybody's help, some podcasts for Let's Stick Together, using sounds that will explore together, that connect with our experience of the pandemic, and also little stories that people might want to bring into the fold. It will evolve as we produce it. That's the idea.
My name's Emily Tracy. I'm an artist and I've been working with collage for quite some time, and we were thinking that we would just really like to find ways of connecting people that we're separated from during the last year. So especially relations and friends, and particularly older people that we can't see at the moment. So yeah, we just really wanted to make a project that could bring people together, and the idea is that we collage sound and image, and then we will produce a set of postcards of images that people create, and then people will be able to find the podcasts that Sarah produces online to listen to whenever they want to. So today what we're going to do is we're going to show you a few ways to get started with your collage, and talk a little bit about how we've been working together to create some collages, and start to think about sound as well. Right, so I am going to show you some images that we're going to look at, which hopefully might give you some inspiration and ideas for starting your own. And then I'm going to show you some images here. We're going to create some little collages here, ways of starting, which you'll be able to see. This is my hand here. Right, so I'm just going to show you some pictures. They'll just take a couple of seconds to come up. So collage has a long history, but the most significant start, I think, is just after the First World War, when a set of artists that are called, that created a movement called Dada, and they reflected their experiences of war and of difficulties, of anxiety and feeling. Lots of people had to move from where they lived across Europe, so they were kind of separated from other people, and life was difficult. And so they kind of created these collages or photo montages, which kind of reflected that. So they are actually physically cut up. Sometimes they're quite strange, quite abstract, and they used everyday paper that they had around them. So they might have used, I think this one's got some money in it. They might have used old tickets, old letters, bits of text, bits of images, and really just with a few simple cuts and sticking, you can create something quite engaging and quite strange. I like a bit of strangeness. So so this is Dada, and there's lots of other examples of fantastic collage through time, but this is kind of where it started. So collage is brilliant because you're just playing. You're playing with image. one really easy way to start is to change the context of your image. So this TV, I think there's lots of writing behind there. So suddenly it's been taken out of context and sort of made to look like it's kind of floating in space. A little bit like this guy actually here, who's kind of floating on I don't know what, a circle in the sky. So changing the setting can be a really interesting, fun way to start. And then cutting things away. And quite often I leave the bits around of the thing that I've cut out, because sometimes you can come back to them later on and think and find that they're actually quite useful. So cutting away. Let's have a look at the next picture. Joining things. So joining unexpected things, joining something you get when you're playing with collage, and you can get a whole load of different images and then just see what looks good with something else. And often when you just got a whole pile of images, you can suddenly see that something looks interesting together. So what's the next one? Or mixing images together. So you can see that this collage here has just been created by kind of interspersing two different images together. And then, of course, we can use text and words. So that's just a simple image there. And we can think about how we cut the paper up. So we could tear it, or we can cut it. And we can see this one's got lots of layers underneath, and you can see that they've been torn here. And here just puts these in, they're quite fun. They've got drawings behind. So we can kind of mix together two very different things. So we can reflect ourselves and our own interests. So what I am going to do now, hopefully, is I'm going to show you a few different things on my desktop here. Lena, are we set up to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, so you will have received through the post an envelope. Inside, you will probably have already found that I've written down some tips and ways to start. So you can just refer to this whenever you want. You don't have to take any notice of it if you don't want to. But you can use that to get started. We've also put in some poems and bits of writing, because that's one of the things we used to get started, and we'll show you a bit more of that later on. There's some paper, plain paper, which is what you can use to stick your collage onto. And then there are lots of printouts of images which you can use to collage with. And finally, oh no, not quite finally, there's also some different kinds of paper here, different colours and different textures, which you might want to use yourself. And the last thing is an envelope which you can use to send your collage to us, and we'll talk a bit about that later. So you might want to find your own things as well to go with these things that we've sent you, because we would love it if the collage reflected you in some way. So you might be able to find, you can use old magazines or newspapers. You might be able to find old letters or things that have come through the post. You might find different kinds of paper. So this is from a dress pattern, which I thought was quite interesting. Different kinds of papers with patterns on them, different colours. Anything you've got at home, really. And also the other thing is that you might want to use our old photographs. So I don't know about you, but I've got lots of boxes of old photographs at home. And if you've got spare ones that you don't mind cutting up, you can use those. So let's just have a little think again about how you might start, and I'll try and give you a few tips. So the first thing was taking something out of context. So I'm just going to choose this woman here. When I cut out, I try and cut really nice and closely to the edge of the object or the person. And I'm going to do this, whoops, super quick. So here we go. See how fast I can cut this girl out. So straight away, she's been taken out of her context. I'm going to keep the cutout because that's also quite interesting. We can try putting her into a different context. Here she is on an iceberg. If we can change her scale by putting her into different environments. So suddenly she's a giant on a mountain. We can try putting her upside down to, you know, perhaps that evokes a feeling of strangeness that we've been going through. We could cut her in half. We have the power of scissors. We can cut her in half. Oh, look, she's floating in the water. We could add her to another image. I'm just trying to find something that might be nice to stick her with.
So worth saying that it's a good thing not to stick anything down till right at the end and sort of try as many different things as you can. I think you suggested before taking a photo of things maybe to see how it looks before you start gluing anything.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I usually just, it's a good idea to you know, try a whole load of different things before you stick it down, because it's really irritating if you've kind of made a decision early on to stick something down and then you can't get something underneath it, because then you have to kind of cut it really neatly. So yeah, just have a play around with it before you stick anything down. And as Lena said, I always take a photograph of what I'm doing. If you have a camera, then that's quite a nice way to kind of look at it with fresh eyes. Yeah, is there anything else, Lena, that I need to say?
No, should we maybe talk a little bit about, we did some collages to start with to kind of kick Let's Stick Together off. Maybe we could show a couple of those, and Sarah did a sound collage as well. That might be worth.
Yeah. So when we started, I searched for lots of images, and we started to think about how we could reflect what we'd been going through. And we started to, first of all, Lena bought some poems to
yeah, so one of the ways we work with Library of Change is also thinking about words and putting them into a different context, or thinking about them in a different way as well, and responding to them emotionally. So, you know, I had some poetry collections of different kinds. I sent some poems to Emily as kind of springboards that she used to inspire some of the collages that she did as well. So there's some different ones here.
We thought about idioms. We thought about the kind of expressions that we have to say. So it might be, "I'm all at sea," or can you think of any others?
Weathering the weather, I think we...
Weathering the weather, we're on thin ice.
Yeah.
So that started quite a few collages which had kind of sea kind of themes to them. And then Sarah came up with some sounds as well to go with some of my collages, and we kind of bounced off each other, didn't we, Sarah?
Yeah, that's right. There was a lovely collage of a couple looking through what's almost like the entrance to a cave, back out at this quite wild sea. And maybe lots of us have been thinking of the sea in the last year, just because we haven't maybe been able to get to the sea, and you can often crave that sound and that place. So I thought that was a really evocative one. I found some wave sounds, and then what did I mix them with? Some music, actually. I think something quite percussive, and then there was the sound of seagulls in there, and rain. That was it, rain sort of falling on a tent, which I'd recorded in a tent last summer in a huge thunderstorm. And yeah, that was a really lovely one to think about. And then I created a little montage of sounds that kind of encompass perhaps the feeling of spring, or this stage that we're entered now, this feeling of a new chapter, a new season, perhaps some kind of emergence. And I had again a little bit of music, but I used the sound of my son humming, as quite a sort of a child's hum is quite hopeful, I suppose, and beautiful to listen to. So that for me sort of evoked a feeling of hope and spring.
Shall I share those and people can see
that would be lovely.
We're talking about. So I won't play the whole thing, but we'll just start.
So the music doesn't quite carry on Zoom, does it? It's a little, but it's nice to hear it. Yeah, and I think I think everybody maybe holds a sound from the last year that you could might like to think about, a sound that evokes this last year, perhaps a hopeful sound and also a more difficult sound, because it has been both of those things, hasn't it?
So as well as the collage that we're hoping you'll send us, if you want to include a little note, a written note about a sound that's guided you or had a prominent place for you during this past year, then we would love to hear that as well. We will use it in the sound collages that we'll be putting together later on as well.
So just to say, you don't need to send the sound, the real sound. You don't need to send a recording. You just might write down the sound of birds or the sound of the TV in the other room or something like that. And that would be nice to see. So we're really hoping that you enjoy making some collage, and that you share what you do with us. So in your pack there should be an envelope which you can use to send your collage. Oh, also I forgot to say, if you actually want to do your collage on the envelope, you're very welcome to do that as well. So we really hope that you send us your collages, and then we'll be making postcards out of those images. And then once we've got those printed, we'll be sending them out to everybody that participated in the project, and you'll get quite a few postcards which you can then send on to your friends and relatives and share the project and share the sounds that will have been created during the project. I think that's it.
I think that's it. Right. We look forward to seeing your work. Thank you, everyone.